Hello, it's Natacha from PPL. Today I'm going to teach you how to do a terrarium, which is a small ecosystem. Then I'll explain you what an ecosystem is, how it works, and why it is important to protect it. And give you some tips on how you actually can protect it, because you're part of this ecosystem. So, you see this beautiful table? What do you need to do a terrarium? You have a jar that you can either buy at IKEA or any shop, or use what you have at home. You need some moss that you can find in gardens. You need some soil, pebbles, and then the plants that you want to put in your terrarium. The first thing to do is to put the pebbles at the bottom. So do it carefully, not to break your jar. The pebbles will help you to keep the water. So once you have your pebbles there, you put the soil. So just make sure you have enough soil to put the roots of your little plants in them. Here we go. You can take your little plants. Be careful just to really put the roots in the soil. And then you cover the soil with the moss. Which is a good way to protect it and to keep the water as well. And here you are, you have your little terrarium. And the last step is to water it, to bring some water into it. So remember, you can water it once a month, but just make sure by touching the moss and the soil that it's still humid. It's the best way to check if your terrarium needs a little bit more of water. So here we go, you just created a little ecosystem. So now you've just learned how to build your own terrarium, your own little ecosystem. Then you'll ask me, what is an ecosystem? So it's all the living organisms, that is to say plants and animals that live within a specific area. In this case, in your terrarium, so you'll have the plants you've chosen, and you have the small little bacteria that are within the soil and that are going to help your plants to grow. And on top of that, you have, of course, the whole environment that has an impact on the ecosystem. So if you're in a desert, you'll have different kinds of animals and plants that thrive there, from, let's say, to the North Pole. So that's what an ecosystem is. And it can be in very different sizes. Small one like a terrarium to your garden, or then the hugest ones like the Amazons, whole continents. And you have two main types, which is the aquatic ones that you find in the oceans, to the little pond in a garden, to the terrestrial ones, which is just what we've been built with your terrarium. So indeed, an ecosystem is not just the animals and the plants that live in and the environment that affect them, but it's also the interaction within them. So how does an ecosystem work? Well, it's the interaction within all those elements and the role that each actor has in it. Each plant, each animal has a role in it. Let's take a really simple instance. Bees. You see bees in your garden. To thrive, they need a lot of different flowers. So that's where they find their food. They go from one flower to the other and they pollinate, which means that they will help those flowers to give fruits. And from there, those fruits will have an impact on the rest of the ecosystems. It's going to be food for the animals that live there and for us. So you're starting to understand how an ecosystem works, the importance of each element in it. And that's really important because if one thing is missing, you're just destroying this balance. Back to our little bees. If you use pesticides that kill them, we won't have the fruits and the vegetables to nourish us. Same like your little jar. If you forget to water it, your plants are going to die. So that's the whole idea. We need to have a healthy ecosystem to be able to thrive. An ecosystem is important. It's the basis of our life here on Earth. It purifies our water, it purifies the air through the trees, it regulates the climate, and when the soil is healthy, it helps our food to grow. So indeed, if it's polluted, polluted air, polluted water, polluted food, we get sick. We need to protect our ecosystems. It's the basis of our life. The good news is that you're an actor in your own ecosystem. You can change things and protect the ecosystems you're living in. And let's just start with really simple things that you can do on your own. Like not littering nature and the streets. That's the really first one. Recycle if you can. Plant flowers and vegetables to increase the local biodiversity. Have little insect houses. But you don't need to do this on your own. You can do it with your community. With your neighbors, at school, the council, the city you're living in. For instance, you could actually create a little litter club to go and pick up the litter in the streets and raise awareness on the issue of waste. Or simply plant vegetables and flowers in little patches in the garden of your school or in your city. So those are really simple first steps you can do to protect your ecosystem. And I want to close with a couple of remarks. Is this, in what kind of world do we want to live in? Well, we want to live in a world where we human beings are in symbiosis with nature. Second, what actions I would love you to take after this presentation is to be careful and raise awareness on not littering nature. This is the best way to protect it. And then, if you see it on a more global level, what can our politicians do to change the status quo? Well, we really want them to protect biodiversity and our ecosystems. First of all, by having a better waste management structure, both in rich and developing countries. And second, decreasing and at one point stopping using pesticides and instead really encouraging regenerative agriculture. That's the best way we're going to protect our ecosystems and have a thriving world. Thank you.